I'll say 8:30, we'll get the work session going, Reed.
Well, morning guys. So Tina and I have been kind of brainstorming for a little while here and we put together this work session kind of timeline deal. Tina did a lot of the putting the words together so you could understand what it said. So I'm gonna give Tina lots of credit because I don't think my brain flows quite as straight lines as hers, so it's good. It solved a lot of problems for me. So just gonna do this quick. So all of you know, in the beginning of 24, we took over solid waste. And then we spent that first year basically just trying to figure out the program. And in all honesty, we are still figuring out some things with the program that are not either happen every year or very straightforward some. So I think we got a pretty good handle on it, but there's always some stuff we're learning. So then this year, what we did is said, okay, there's some stuff that's either outdated or some stuff that could use updating. So then we spent a while with the solid waste committee and folks trying to get to where, okay, these set of things need to happen because they just aren't quite right. So that's what we spent most of the first part of the year doing. And then we said, okay, we got these three goals. We're going to try and make things basically fair for everybody, which is equitable for all stakeholders. We want this to be a volume based, so you basically are paying for what you get rid of. And we want it to be simple, so I can tell you in like 2 sentences how the solid waste program works. And there's no circles, there's no having to backtrack, there's no, well, there's 5 scenarios and all that. So that's why we set it up this way. So what we have now is in August, we sent out a letter that said, hey, we're gonna get carts for all you guys on the lakes. After in July, you guys said, yep, that's a good idea. That's an easy way to get rid of all those problems we talked about before. So what we're gonna do is are getting all those carts, hopefully starting the end of this week. They got delivered yesterday. So we did that, and then there was another letter that went out at the beginning of October informing them that these are coming again. And when we did that, Ingebrigtsen said, okay, if the original plan was in 27, so we spent 26 where we updated carts and we got rid of that orange bags piece because of nobody using it and trying to get down to those three models there. Ingebrigtsen said, hey, the difference in what someone will pay in 27 and what we charge them in 26 is quite a bit different because of the two different ways we charge, how the county charges somebody and how Ingebrigtsen charges are not apples to apples. So when you make that jump, there's gonna be a pretty good price on some of these folks, anywhere from 130 to 200 plus bucks a year, which is quite a bit more than what we normally would increase those tax assessments a year. You try and do that 30, 40, 50 bucks to cover everything. But so what we did is, okay, we got to figure out what different solution or a better route is. So Tina and I said, well, let's do some quick history figuring out. So we took and said, okay, what's the tipping fee from 2000 to now? Well, it's gone up. We all know that. It'll go up again January 1. So
It's
then
about 4%.
4% a year for the last 5 at least. Otherwise, it's around that. And then what we did is we said, okay, those tax assessments, have they kept up with that straight line? The short answer is no, because since the last 5 years or so, maybe 6, they have been stagnant. They've been flat at the same rates as they were in 2019 till today. They haven't changed. But the price to get rid of all that stuff has gone up. So there should have been, or we needed to do some sort of adjusting. So now we are less than what it actually costs to get rid of some of that stuff, which gets backfilled by levy dollars or by the city or by those on non-mandatory routes that kind of with that big budget circle. So what we did is we met with Ingebrigtsen and we went, okay, we got to figure something out here. So then what we did is we met with Ken and Troy and we met with the solid waste committee and said, we got to come up with either a different plan or we need to accept the fact that in 27, there's going to be a big jump and the hauler is going to take a black eye looking like they're trying to make hand over fist by jumping those prices. What we said, and Troy was big help in this part, he said, hey, maybe we need to push this one more year because that way the county takes the licks there in 27 when we try and get prices and our model closer to what it will be in 27 or what would be 27, but in 28. So then the county kind of takes the brunt of, unhappy people or, okay, we jacked the rates a little because of A, B, C, and D. And now we're coming 27 to 8. The transition is, okay, it's $10 difference or whatever that difference is. It's a lot more manageable, much more easier bite to swallow. So those are kind of our two options. And then Ken said, hey, we've been dragging this out a little while already. Are we gonna want to drag it out a whole nother year if it just pushes stuff down the road? Kind of like that cart for the horse or rip the band-aid off deal, and there's not really a good yes or no either way. It's kind of a, who do you want to take the brunt of this? County not making up that tipping fee mixed with the rest of the stuff that has all gone up over the last 5 years. Part in my brain, I don't want to push it to 28 because now we prolong this unequal, messed up part of this whole system another year, but I think that would give us time to then fix a bunch more things and have it basically easy peasy hand off to Ingebrigtsen to do the billing, and then the cities are on board, the rural folks know what's going on, everybody's in the same boat versus, well, half of them aren't and nobody's no idea what's going on, or all of a sudden it's happening and giving a black eye to the hauler, which we're really trying to not do because they're a really good hauler. Especially if you've talked around to some of the other counties that have some of the other haulers, they've had some issues with even just pickups or not showing up or picking up the wrong days or getting charged way extra for things or extra for every little nickel and dime thing. Ingebrigtsen isn't that way, and they've been very helpful in trying to point out things that, hey, since we took over in 2020, here's some things that we've noticed here in Grant County that are not like any of the other 3, 4, 5 counties they work in. For better or worse, some are good, some aren't, because they're just old ways of doing it. So one of them was that orange bags deal. No other counties really use those because it's an old system, and now we're kind of transitioning away from those. But those are kind of our two plans. We either gotta go to 27 and the rates will get crazy because
Did you run out the cost of the county?
yeah, so either, no matter what route you go, so in my budget, there's a line for hauling and there's a line for tipping fee. That's two, basically each of them are 220,000 a piece. So you're a good chunk of change, but where which you pick, it'll go away whenever Ingebrigtsen goes to hauling, goes to doing the billing. Because what they bill a customer for is the disposal fee, which is that hauling and the tipping fee together. Right now, the county is paying Ingebrigtsen to haul it, and we pay Pope Douglas to dispose of it. Versus the customer is actually paying for it to be hauled and disposed like you would anywhere else. And that's in the city right now, they pay us whatever we tell them, here's what you gotta pay, then they pay us and we turn around and pay the hauling contract, we pay the tipping fee. The city would be the same kind of.
How many ton a year is it?
Countywide is 2,700 tons roughly, and about between 500 and 600 are those that are already contracted directly with Ingebrigtsen.
So 27 plus that,
No. 2,700 minus that, so about 2,100 is the mandatory routes and in town. So 2,700 total tons for the whole program.
The stuff that's not, that's the other 500-600.
The other 500-600 are like folks like Troy who are not on a route and not in town, so they're not contracted.
Then he pays Ingebrigtsen or?
He pays Ingebrigtsen, so his fee, on what he gets charged a month or a year from Ingebrigtsen is he pays the hauling and he pays tipping directly to them.
So is the Troys of the world been increased the tipping fee?
Correct.
They have.
Yep, every year, so in that contract we have with Ingebrigtsen, every year the price to dispose of a 65 gallon goes up 45 cents, 50 cents, whatever their formula is to cover hauling increase and tipping fee increase.
So 2,700 for everything else in the county.
2,100 for everybody else.
100.
Yep. 2,700 is countywide with the Troys. So. Yeah, so everybody else has seen the increases and the folks in town have seen increases a little, but it gets absorbed by some other options in the budget that doesn't show like it does to like Troy's, fortunately, the non-mandatory people.
Cause I've got a dumpster and mine's about, around $60, a little one way or the
Yep.
other.
Yep, and so you've seen an increase of that because you're also in that same boat.
So it's,
Yeah.
so what's happening is like Troy, myself, you Doyle, we're paying the tipping fee and we're paying the disposal fee. And then what's also happening is that we're also picking up what the mandatory routes in the cities aren't paying. We also take on that other $200,000 in the budget. That also gets pushed back to us. So what's happening is like when it goes to the hauler, The savings is gonna be that $200,000, is all the people who are rural, who are double paying for the tipping fee. Now, they're only gonna get one tipping fee now.
Right.
So it's gonna be cheaper for all the non-mandatory, because we've been picking up for what the mandatory haven't been paid.
And so that number, follow up on that. The 2,100 ton, since 2019, it's gone up about $25 a ton, that's 52,500.
Yeah.
If you,
Just in the tipping fee
on
alone.
the tipping fee that we haven't passed on.
Per year,
No,
Right.
That's
no,
total.
no, that's total for the 5, so because. The tipping fee only goes up $4 or $5 a ton, or 4%,
It's about 6,000-7,000 a year.
yeah,
so
$7,000 a year that hasn't gotten pushed to the taxes or pushed to wherever.
it'll help us track it for score dollars. In my opinion, it'll create efficiencies in it, so, and then you can track it, right? A lot, way easier, and it would push people to recycle,
It would help. And we've,
especially the dumpster people,
yeah,
which I'm sure you guys do, right? You recycle.
We started recycling about probably 8 months ago. And we noticed that our dumpsters way less full, like we started using everything else, and after hearing how recycling actually benefits the county, and I think a lot of people don't have this, like, being part of the solid waste committee, you don't realize how much money it saves the county by recycling,
Absolutely.
and it saves taxpayers, so that's. It helps save on our dumpster space, but now all of a sudden it helps the county in the tonnage for the recycling as well.
And regardless, you're gonna get billed regardless if they come or not, right?
Right.
so the hope is like you could then downsize your dumpster or go to a cart instead, or a bigger cart and get away from, probably not where you are, but. There's folks on the lakes that had dumpsters that when we rolled the carts out, they've now decided to go, the carts are out because it's whatever was on the taxes and they don't have to go pay that difference. They're going, I don't actually think I need a dumpster, cause it was never full, it was never you know. That'll be a lot more efficient on the hauler side, cause you just roll up, grab the cart and go, versus the dumpster is a lot more back and forth and hooking stuff up to empty in.
So I think that thing to consider is if we're gonna make up this cost difference in the program, if you do it in 27, the concern is that it would look like Ingebrigtsen taking on the new system would be characterized as the, I won't say the bad guy, but the one that's made up for this. If you delay it and you split it, we can take some of the blame, and then Ingebrigtsen picks up the scraps on the, on year later. At some point, it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of, and I don't know how Troy Ingebrigtsen feels about it, but he is.
So when I met with him last week on Tuesday, he liked the idea of 28 from the fact that the county is kind of correcting some of its deals. He said he'll roll with whatever route we're gonna go is fine, but he just wants to know which route we're gonna go so he can have things ready to go. Because either 27 or 8, the grand scheme plan is, okay, instead of the county billing you on your taxes, Ingebrigtsen billing you directly, billing the city this, Ingebrigtsen now bills city for X number of canisters this size, and that. They bill you directly on the lake, they bill you directly on, not on the lake, and it's all the same price, no matter what. So if you have 65 or you, no matter where your 65 is, it costs exactly the same. That's our end goal.
So where does it fall into on these dumpsters that are out here by the lake on the east and west side of the lakes?
So the folks around the lake who are forced to use the dumpsters would get, so in Stevens County, there's a similar deal. They have a couple subdivisions in the same boat we are. What happens is that whole subdivision just splits the bill for the cost for the year, and that's what they do.
Okay.
Or
But that's a direct bill then,
Yeah,
okay.
because that's what's one of Carl's questions, said, well, does that have to stay on the tax roll since they have the dumpster? And I talked to Troy about it, I said, well, in Stevens, we do this with a couple of them, and I said, well, if you already do it there, I think we could probably do that here. If, as long as we, do the letter, do the call, let everybody know what the plan is, what's happening.
So on the west side of the lake, they get an additional dumpster for the summer. That would be a direct bill to them as well.
correct, if that's what they'd like, yep.
Okay,
And some of, some of these lake places went from fully seasonal to, like the golf course, a lot more full-time residents out there.
yes,
So maybe they do actually need that dumpster year round or full-time, whereas right now it's in the contract, it's only there half the time. So if we wanted it to be there full-time, probably should go through all the hoops of adjusting all that to do that versus you just say, hey, I'd like garbage service, an extra dumpster from this day to this day, or full-time, and away you go. Like right now, if you're seasonal, you get a seasonal rate, but you still have garbage all year round. Versus if you were direct to the hauler, you just call and say, hey, I'm gone from September, October till April, you don't have to come to my house. Then they don't, sorry, you're only paying for the months you're using. That's kind of trying to simplify it down too, because it's pretty easy to say, oh, you want garbage service? Here's our hauler, call them, here's the rate. Versus, well, if you live here or here or here, it's different, so I mean, where do you live? It gets the county out of the garbage game or the garbage business, because right now, being the money middleman for all this, we're really are like your business in the middle of all of these other players.
What I would propose is we use 27 to transition from billing for tons to gallons. So that's how it's gonna be billed in 28 going on is gallons or yard, if you have a dumpster, it's yards, not gallons, but it's a volume base, not a weight base. So we are transitioning to what will be used in the future, and it's still on the county rather than the haul. So that's what I mean, to me, that's what that additional year is it's the transition year from, everyone now has a canister. We're trying to standardize rates, and now we're gonna transition in that last year where it's county billed. We're gonna transition to a volume-based billing rather than a rate-based.
Because currently, the non-mandatory folks are already at that, volume base, they're paying for whatever size dumpster, whatever size cart they have. The cities and rural are paying based on their percent of the tonnage the year previous. So Elbow Lake here is 32% in 24, so they paid 32% of the solid waste budget minus a couple items that doesn't apply to them. Which creates, again, another complicated way of figuring out what to charge them and how to do this versus, okay, Elbow Lake has 50 of these carts, 500 of these carts, 60 dumpsters, this is what it is.
So in 2027, will the cities get billed based on the percent of the weight
The hope would
like
be
they are now?
in 26, yes, in 27, no, they would be transitioning the same as the folks on the lakes.
They would be billed on,
How many ever carts you have, and we would try and get it as close to what it will be in 28 before any increases so that this transition is smoother.
Okay,
Because we want the transition from the county led to the hauler doing the billing to be smooth, so it doesn't affect, the residents don't even know what's happening other than they got a bill versus their taxes. Or the city got the bill versus from Ingebrigtsen versus me. The county.
so in my vision of it, in the 27 the cities would not be paying based on their weight from 26. It would be the amount of gallons they have available for garbage in that month or quarter, however you wanna,
none of value.
the volume, not the weight.
And by waiting for 28, it also gives us a couple months in half of 26 also to figure out exactly how to build the cities like that, okay? The cities would like to be billed a month, or do the cities need a quarter at a time, Cause Ingebrigtsen is pretty open to either one, cause they know they're gonna get paid, they don't have to worry about not getting paid from the city or from the county. They'll get paid.
but the little lady that's only got a little bit in the bottom of that very big container per, you know what I mean? She's gonna get billed for the container as a
billed.
whole.
Currently in town, she would get billed for that same container, or if she lived out in the country, she'd get billed for that same container. I don't think how we operate allows for
So these
the
scale,
changes there.
so the scale tickets, well, we won't be tracking the tonnage then.
No, Ingebrigtsen will still weigh everything because we still need to know all that tonnages for our end, all the reporting for all
Okay.
the other things.
Okay.
And we can still do the same thing we have been as far as, okay, this city has this percent, if they would like that information. That's easy enough for me to put in Excel and that's all for you.
When you have to know your tonnage,
I need
you
to
have
know that.
recycling, there's recycling standards that have to be met, and that's based off of tonnage.
Yeah.
So, question, Reed.
Yep.
So if in 26 that we're gonna have the containers, volume based. And the cities are gonna pay based on their 25 tonnage.
Yep, for 26, yep.
In 27, we'll have the containers. But the cities won't be based. Hoffman won't have 13% of it, that they'll be based on something.
They'll be based on the amount of carts they have, which would be the amount of gallons available to them.
Okay, so at some point. We know that the tipping fee has gone up $25 a ton since the county changed it.
Yep.
At what point, let's use ripping the Band-Aid off, at what point then is that 25 coming? Is
So
it coming right
yeah.
away? Is it coming
I
right at a
think-
time or?
I think what we need to do go from this year to next is we have, okay, we know the cost of the rental is already going on the taxes. We need to at least make the 4% that's coming this year and maybe the one from the year previous, so you'll get 8 of that 24 back. And then the following year, when you make the jump again, that's when you're gonna have to hit the additional percentages that were short.
So are we gonna communicate that to the customer?
Yep, there'll be,
We have an increase, there's been.
there'll be letters that go out to all the folks, there'll be a public meeting where we do all the same stuff we do with the carts, give you all the info. Where to just come and listen or watch on the website. Do our, and then put it on Facebook, a quick cheat sheet of here's what it is and why, and. Do our best to communicate to everybody what it'll be. And regardless, they're still gonna call, still talk to them, still walk them through what we can. At the end of the day, that's the route.
They're gonna be angry about that 8 or that 20%
Regardless.
increase. But the thing is that all people who are on the non-mandatory route are still gonna be picking up the other part of that. So you have, around 500 people who are gonna be angry, but you have the other 3,500 who are not gonna be angry about it. Because these are the people who've been picking up, subsidizing these 500.
Right.
I guess from an overall comprehensive county perspective, we know we're gonna get the cost savings, right? In the budget. We know that that's coming. And in a perfect world, we'd love to have that as soon as possible. But I think to nurture and foster our relationship with the vendor, we have to ask ourselves, is it right to put all that pressure on them? From things that the county has chosen to do historically? Or do we want to keep a good working relationship with them and take some of that pressure off them? So it's not perceived that it's them hiking up, and it's gonna take a lot of education, but I think having a good, strong working relationship with our vendor is something Grant County wants to consider doing because, we couldn't go out and find a better vendor probably for those rates, so.
And the service.
And
So, you mentioned that, it reminds me now what I wanted to ask. The statement, you got it highlighted in yellow. Regardless of the option chosen, the county will see a savings in the solid waste budget of approximately $218,000 in their hauling contract and another $220,000 in tipping fees.
Correct.
It's not really a savings, it's a shift.
it's a savings as far as it's no longer on the tax levy. It is directly on the bill you as a person are paying. You're not paying the county taxes on that extra 440 grand. It's not, I'm not collecting that money on your tax.
The
I
expense
think
isn't
I
going
understand
away.
what you're saying.
It doesn't go away,
Is that-
correct?
That I pay my own tipping fee because I have my own garbage can. Now, because we haven't been happy enough for the mandatory route, I'm also paying in my levy dollars to subsidize for the mandatory route people. So I'm, in essence, I'm paying twice on the tipping fee. That's where the savings is.
But the hauling contract isn't gonna go down $220,000.
Yeah. The county will pay $0 in the hauling contract. Our contract with Ingerbretson will just be to be the hauler and have pricing. We won't pay Ingerbretson a penny anymore for that because it'll go away. that it is shifting from the county paying, you in like. Taxpayer paying.
You have an
stuff.
expense and you have income,
We don't get any income off of Holland.
and you got a contract. You bill Ken Johnson $264 a year. It includes an expense and income. If you take it away, it doesn't get to be a savings because both of them go away.
Correct.
Am I right?
It's still an expense to the person utilizing the service.
Right, but when you talk about the county necessarily,
We're able to take that out of the county budget, but
we won't have the expense either.
we want to do.
There'd be no expense, but there's no revenue
And I'm
either.
not trying to call your statement out, but all,
No.
you just didn't find $220,000.
No.
$400 and some $1,000, no.
The
No,
difference is our income was less than the expenses.
Already.
So that's the savings, is the difference between the
Okay.
income that we're
Yeah.
receiving and the expenses.
Not the $450,000.
No, but
I just want to make sure I'm thinking right.
No, I mean, it's good to have these conversations, cause we gotta really think about how we're gonna educate the public too. And we're all learning. None of us are solid waste recycling experts, so we're all learning, trying to, again, go back. We wanna make it equitable for all stakeholders, we want it volume based, and we wanna simplify it so we can explain it to people. So this is good, this is why we are having a work session, and we'll probably have more, just to make sure we all are understanding as we move through the process.
With the goal of recycling and getting to a certain percentage. And that message needs to be conveyed, because, you know, we've grumbled about this for years, the $19 million that gets collected across the state, and we get token money coming back for it. Right,
you're not gonna.
on the solid waste management tax,
We get our 3%, and that's kind of.
Yeah.
The gist.
which it's based, you know what I mean, we
Based on
get more,
population.
you know. We shouldn't grumble about the price tag, cause it wasn't like it is today though. They bumped that up a little bit.
Oh, we got about 3 minutes left, so we're gonna have to wind this up. Anybody got anything else for Reed? Anything else, Reed?
Nope, I'll see you at whatever time I'm on next.
Good.
I don't buy. Keep running, everybody's sitting.
I had a meeting down in Morris too on. This, so like. I better go check with Reed to see how it. Sounds like.
It doesn't really, I think we could pull it together if we did it the next year.
It's just that trying to say fingerprints of from being black eyes. That's what I'm trying
The one thing I got hit.
That is
I went back at home and. Yeah, that's the wind.
That's a little bit different, because we put the owl up on the ceiling,
Okay.
and so when you're on, we need you, today, we need you to sit here, so.
Here,
that's just-
just got a contract.
We've gotta do some adjustments here.
30,000 miles for driving, one of the guys, is, this is the old system. They 17,000, they're definitely. Now the new system is X. So. And then there's visibility in the office time. That's the quantitative. Are you gonna add it to our cost?
Just find it out there.
I don't, that's good. I'm doing a profit right now.
I talked to anyone, so you know that, pricing many they.
Ready for some bingo? I'm gonna pass out the bingo cards.
Surprise, they include that.
Hopefully bingo.
So that was good to know.
You funding?
We weren't sure before whether that
Yeah.
included them doing other thing or not, so.
Does anybody know like
So They bill cities different
The
than.
fire department used to do it years back, we did it every year for all the time.
I don't.
And then that all migrated down to,
Question.
you know,
That was open with fire, he starts trying to
you're in that back room, so the fire department put it on.
You know what I mean, that's.
Number of
outside
years.
our-
And then, well, fabulous on some of the dollars, but it don't sound like they wanna do that anymore, so.
This one for profit. And
Last
here's-
Good, down there.
High.
Yeah, we took care of it yesterday, good.
This invoice, Nina, you wanna put that on the,
No, I never did, so, okay, I'll let.
on the agenda, right, this invoice?
And when we talk about the warrants, I'll bring it up. It's, but the only one I'd be adding the, October 31st minutes.
He's over there discussing that, do you need me here for your part? No, you can roll.
Do you mean to talk shit? That's all we got.
Well, it's 9 o'clock, or you have the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's the
Question, when we do the Western Prairie Committee update, do we wanna have a shutdown update from Western Prairie? Casey said she'd come on and give us one if we want it, I don't.
The closed meeting you're talking?
No.
Oh, it's just to have an update.
Just an update of what's going on, she's got the Zoom link, so I think that'd be good.
Wouldn't hurt. Sure. Why not?
Okay. So. Approval of the agenda,
What had to be, have it, Stephen?
So in the board packet was, October 21st, meeting minutes. But then I would like to add for approval, the meeting minutes from Friday's meeting, October 31st.
With that addition, Mr. Chair, I will make that motion.
okay,
I'll second.
motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the board's meeting minutes
Or warrants.
on the warrants, yeah.
Okay, so, Chad reached out to me, and indicated that, the warrants that were emailed out, there is a correction, and it has to do with the ARPA funds. West Central Minnesota Community Actions, if you'll notice in the commissioner warrants, they requested 62,500 of ARPA funds for the second house they're gonna be building. It should have been 52,500, and that is the new invoice you all have in front of you, so you can see that. So with that correction to the warrants is what we would ask the board to consider approving.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
The motion, need a second?
Second.
Motion second, any questions on any of the bills? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And I was super eager to get the bills paid, so now we can do the minutes.
And I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair, for the last, the meeting minutes that were presented. Including the October 31st.
I'll second that.
Any questions on any of the minutes? None, all, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
You?
Alright, guys, so we started doing solid waste. Remember that you wanted updates quarterly, so this is your quarter 3 update. Unless anybody wants to, my plan is kind of just gonna give you a broad overview of the kind of the 3. So the solid waste numbers are looking pretty much the same year to year. We don't tend to fluctuate much. Except for right now, our non-mandatory is up like 50 tons for quarter 3, so I don't know if we just had a lot more folks sign up for garbage service or what, or if there was just more non-mandatory folks trucking stuff right now or what, but so we'll see at the end of the year what that looks like, but that's kind of the only difference there. The cities are all pretty similar to their percentages for next year. So they all were kind of given the heads up, here's what your percentages are roughly looking like for next year when I added in quarter 4 from last year to get them a full year's worth of data. So other than that, for solid waste, everything is kind of chugging along. Like we've mentioned a couple times before, tipping fee at Pope Douglas will go up that 4% January 1. So as far as recycling, the numbers look basically the same as they did from 24 to 5. There hasn't seen a lot of change that way, so they're pretty stagnant. But we're gonna try and do a couple of things and get some education pieces out and have some conversation with some cities, if there's some things we can do, try and get some of those numbers up. So we're seeing a little bit, maybe with those larger trailers tend to hold more. So less folks are having to drive away and come back and be able to use those. So, and then for organics, the numbers are not, well, sorry, the drop sites are up. It's after the curbside is your first recycling, then it's the drop sites, and that's where you're seeing a little bit increase, but not much. That last page is organics, and that is down a little bit because we had a couple places that used to do it that aren't doing it, but they didn't do it for the first like 6 months of the year, but for whatever reason, they've kind of started to do a couple more in some places, so we're chugging along. Starting the second week of October, Riverview Dairy started doing organics out there, and they had in 3 weeks 5.5 tons. So our whole quarter 3 was about 12 tons. So they had basically half what we had for a whole year in 3 weeks. So our organics tonnages are gonna jump quite significantly. And out there, what their organics are the paper towels. They used to have a robot that would come in and clean all the udders, but now the cows don't like it. It doesn't work. So they go back to guides and bags, and which should mean that the tonnages out in the rural or they would be non-mandatory will go down because you're not putting all that in the solid waste. So
Nothing they can reuse out there?
they buy a lot of their stuff in bulk so that they don't have a lot of recyclables even. Because we thought, oh, if they had the big totes that you bought any of the iodine or any of the stuff they use in-house, but they buy it in 1,000-gallon tanks or 2,000-gallon tanks that they fill and go from there. We had the same talk, and then we talked with Stevens County, Bill over there, who's got 4 or 5 dairies, and that's where him and Troy Ingworth both said, you should get them to do organic, because you're already doing it in Stevens County, so it was basically drop the dumpster off and go. They didn't, no training, no nothing, they already knew what the gig was, so. And then Barrett has started getting a bunch of places up and going. Herman got their gas station going. They're working on a place in Hoffman, just have to see if they wanna do it, so. Making some headway there, which contributes to that, getting closer to that 35% recycling rate by 2030. We're good with Riverview, that should help a bunch, because that's quite a bit of tonnage versus what we normally have to get, so. Other than that, that is kind of the quarter 3 update for me, unless any of you have anything else or questions.
We got any questions for Reed? Okay, thank you, Reed. That the deputy chair over there. Hey, highway department,
Morning, guys. Just looking for approval to order my pickup. And it just needs the $500 deposit. I think Tina sent you my invoice, I guess.
Still don't budget in, everything.
It all fits in the budget.
When, are we expecting delivery?
He said, I think he said 12 to 16 weeks or something.
It'll be springtime, yeah. It all fits in our budget for this year.
Send Jamie an email letting her know there's unusual things.
Yep.
So. You had 100,000 for a service truck, F-350. It doesn't look like you have this.
No, we moved some stuff around. This felt like it fit into a better spot for us. So,
When you say fit, so if you look at the spreadsheet, the numbers dollar wise, budget doesn't.
it doesn't change the number on the budget at all, it's just, yep, it's just moving some stuff from next year to this year. It's moving some stuff around.
So yeah, you guys get that approved. That we get that check cut for the deposit. Before the next run of bills.
Yes, it'll be Friday.
So you trading anything in?
No. Keeping the Tacoma for a run around and.
Kind of replacing the old Chevy.
Yep.
This kind of would do
And
that.
that board.
And what's going on is we took one of, so they had a truck for the surveyors before. We just took that, and put it to one of the outlying shops, so we won't be purchasing a truck for that shop. Next year, it's just sort of moving stuff around is all it is, so. Yep.
Mr. Chair. Yep. I'll make a motion to purchase the truck.
okay, we got a motion, we have a second,
Second.
any more discussion?
Chad, did you want a motion or anything to pay that $500 or you just do it?
Long as it's consensus, the board will issue the payment on Friday.
So I would suggest, Pat, since that is somewhat what of a working document, that I would suggest you update your
Yep.
spreadsheets and
I will, I'll take care of that.
maybe.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody object to that deposit just being paid on Friday?
No, no.
All right, I got two items before you and all about the same thing. First item is the bid recommendation for the County Road 52 bridge replacement. We received bids, let's see, back on the 21st, we did get two bids. The low bidder was Redstone Construction out of, they're not out of Marshall, that's a typo, they're out of Mora, Minnesota. For $901,223.75. It is about 5% above the estimate, which was of $853,000. So it's within the realm, so we would recommend, I would recommend awarding it to Redstone Construction.
As a member of the highway committee, I will make that motion, Mr. Chair. For the Redstone Construction LLC out of Mora, you said?
Yep.
For the 901,223.75.
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second,
Second.
any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, the next item I have is the local bridge replacement program grant agreement. This is a standard document anytime we're receiving bridge bonding. Originally, we were encumbered $695,000 towards this project, the County Road 52 bridge based on estimate. Once the bids came in, they revised their amount of the grant. It would be $729,100, so they upped it by a little over $30,000. In this agreement, there are three parts to it. The first one would be Exhibit C, which is on page 8. This is the exhibit for the bond finance property certification. This is essentially certifying that we have the rights to do the project. We have the proper land rights, and that we're not gonna sell the property for 37.5 years. So we would need to have approval to approve of that certification. The second item is a resolution to accept the bridge bond funds in the amount of $729,100 and agreeing to the terms and conditions of the grant agreement. And I guess the third thing would just be to approve the grant agreement overall. And would require Doyle's signature on it. So at the end of the day, we would get, what was it? $729,100, and the amount the county would pay towards the project would be $172,123.75. For construction this summer.
So you need those as separate,
You could approve them all as one, because it's one document, or if you want to break them out into all three of them.
What works best for you?
One document works great for me.
Okay,
I will make the motion to approve the package Matt had brought us.
I'll second it.
motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here.
That is all I have. Thank you. Or have it. Have it. Rules for union. Let's go with.
Must be thinking like, I do the same thing.
Ashley?
So I am here today to talk about health insurance. So the insurance committee met a few weeks ago. Gallagher is our broker, and they went out for bid. We received 2 bids. One was from three, including Pete, but Blue Cross Blue Shield and Prime Health. The insurance committee met and looked over all of our bids from the 2 and then also from Pete. And Pete was our best option. So with the increase that we are getting, it was the best. We do have some high claims, which affects our rates. And so I'm here today asking for approval to go into a 4-year contract with Pete. However, it is new this year that we would go to a 4-year, but if there's a 20% increase, we would be able to get out to go look for something else. That is the change. The other change is that they are, getting rid of the value plan, so it would just be the high and the HSA plan that would be offered.
Any questions about that?
You need a motion to accept the
Yep.
insurance committee's recommendation. I will make that motion.
Second.
The motion and a second, any more discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple questions, Mr. Chair. So for your agreement moving forward. I don't know if that's good business, but it probably could be, and it's so much uncertainty to it. But There is a motion and a second on the floor, so. As a member of the insurance committee. You know, we gotta cover these people and we gotta make sure that this thing is fluid, so. That's all I got to say.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's all I have.
Strategic planning committee? License Bureau?
Yep, the strategic planning committee met last Tuesday. And you want to come just present to the board, if we would like to have any department that was interested in or had ideas of how to combine license bureau to let strategic planning committee know. As we know, we have an unknown levy impact coming next year, 26 into 27. We're currently one of the lowest levy increase amounts in the region. Significantly lower. We've got probable ag land values going down, which is gonna shift tax burden to homeowners from the agricultural land. We've approved $1.3 million worth of new spending in the last month and a half or 2 months. We got, my opinion is we got budget issues coming hard next year, and if we wanna try to keep this service in Grant County, we have to try to find ways to, cause next year when we're sitting here, if that's a $70,000 price tag on that department, and it's not mandatory that it's provided, it becomes a pretty easy target if you're looking at $1 million increase to your levy. So if we wanna keep that service, I think we need to look at alternate ways of providing it. And that's what, as that cover sheet said, that's what it is what can we do to continue providing that service?
I'd like to mention. One of the biggest challenges coming with the sick and safe time. We all know it's coming in 26. Every small business. Small department. Can be faced with challenges, and to follow up on what Troy is saying. If we can offer. The service. And. Have some cross training. Have more people available. To do the functions within the county. So if. Someone needs to be gone. That it doesn't pose a huge. Level of stress or whatever that word I want to use, but. I think that's something that we've really got to be conscious of, that. Sick and safe time is a major issue. And. But I think as we look from down the road and even in 26, that's something to think about.
I got a question, Mr. Chair, so. What department is interested in combining?
I don't know that any are. We're just asking to see if anyone has any ideas. And just because a department might have interest doesn't mean it's gonna be a fit that works.
So I got a question for Don, as long as he's here. Does, do you think that another, department could do this, or is it a standalone deal, or what's your,
If another department is gonna take over, is that person gonna be available to come down to the DMV and help out when they need help? Or are you gonna move the DMV up to that office? One person to run the license bureau is a nightmare. I've done it. And it's a nightmare. So are you gonna move the DMV office completely out of that space? And into, let's say, Chad's office if he wants to take over? I'm not forcing you. You know,
No one's gonna force me.
I know, but I mean, are you gonna move the camera, the license plate, everything to that office? You know? To me, budget is a big deal, you know, and I listen to these meetings and I listen where one department gets this much money, then other person gets a raise, now this, and now it's coming down where I'm retiring. And now my office is on the line for whatever, a budget cut. It's fine. I'm gonna be retired. I've done my service to Grant County, whatever. For me to say another office can take over this, I don't know how. You need fingerprint background check training, daily training and updates, monthly training and updates. To keep ahead of all that, and are you gonna only have one person in that office? You know, is that other office gonna be available to fill in when they're on vacation or call in sick? I mean, I don't see which office is gonna be capable of having the availability to do that. Plus run their office. But that's not my decision, that's your guys' decision. And another point is, if another office does take over and they're not in the license bureau as the director, you're gonna be paying someone that works in that office full time to be a manager of office. That's state statute. So to me, that should be a pay increase for whoever's gonna fill in as manager if the director is not in that office full time. So if you're gonna weigh all the options, they think whichever office is thinking of taking over or would like to take over or wants to take over needs to sit down because it's not a simple transition. And I'd like to know before I do all the paperwork with the state when I do my resignation, so, because there's a stack of paperwork that needs to be done for the new director to take over.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. So Don, when you ended up with a new employee, how many hours of training does that person have to take just to be able to get on the state website?
First, they have to pass fingerprint background checks to get on to do at least driver's license part.
Right.
Training depends on how fast they do training. Training can take probably a couple of months and then it's continued training.
Right.
Because they're continually updating stuff, changing stuff, so you're doing training constantly. We have training once a month with the state on new changes in the system, new updates, new legislature changing. It's constant. And if you're not working in that office full time, you fall behind. And even if another office takes over, they still need to do all that training. They still need the fingerprint background checks, because you can't get onto the system without all that. So it's constant. So whoever does take over is constantly training. I do training every day, because there's new stuff that's added into our training sessions on the computer system. So it's a constant one. There's constant changes and it's constant learning.
Well, especially with the CDLs, there's some big changes that are going on there,
Yeah.
right across the nation,
Yeah.
so it's, you know, that's continuing.
And it's not just one department, it's 3 departments. 'Cause you have driver's license, motor vehicle, and DNR. So you have 3 different departments you're dealing with. So
It's very specialized.
it is, and for me to try to change train someone to do my position right now, if it's someone other than Mary, it's gonna take at least 6 months to get somebody trained in to take over. It's not a simple, you go in, you start working and you go take over. It's not. So, you know, I'd like to get it started if we're gonna do it, because my time is running out too. So. There's a lot to learn in that office. And there's a lot to do. It's a constant, everyday training, learning, processing, and if you're not in there, you know, you have maybe 3 slow months out of the year. The rest of them, you need 2 people standing in there. Which means if Shad takes over that position, is he gonna come down there and stand and help, or am I training his 2 employees to come in and fill it? You know, is he willing to give up his employees to come down there? Or any other office that wants, is thinking of taking over. You know, it's a decision, it's not an easy job.
I think what Don has explained really demonstrates how vulnerable we are and the importance that we look at a system where there's cross treatment. I mean, if you look at our other departments, and if it took 6 months to keep the bid, it's really vulnerable. And so whenever there's natural attrition and there's change, there's also opportunity. And I think it's important that we look at the opportunity so we don't have one or those 2 people that are that vulnerable. And that's what we had. And yeah, we've gotten by forever. Doesn't mean we shouldn't look at the opportunity of offering a service and yet having backup and support in the department.
Okay, I've always been a supporter of the license bureau in Grant County. 25 years ago, they tried to get rid of it. I think some of us remember that. And got a work group together and met up in the courthouse. The state was there, and they've never seen so many people at that type of meeting. So, no, I don't think, me personally, or I don't think too many board members here want to see this thing go away. It can't. People use this license bureau from all the counties around it. And, you know, there's been some rumors the last week that it's shut down. And I think a few of us heard some of that stuff, but I set the record straight on that. I don't think Grant County is gonna be without a license bureau. At least I hope not, because a lot of people use it because it's a good deal. And it brings people to town and they buy things other than license tab. And they come and communicate with the county employees and things like that. And so, you know, I know how important it is, and so, but we just looking at some options here, that's all. And, I know what Dawn's saying, that's not a job that I would probably want. You're dealing with the state all the time.
You are retired.
I'm kind of, but anyway, it's a complicated deal over there when you're dealing with everything that they deal with, so. But I just want to set the record straight that that's an important function for this county. And I just want people to know that, and I hope it's not going anywhere. At least it'll be a no vote for me if that's the case, so. That's all I have to say. So let me, when you say a no vote, I don't know where we're shutting it down. I mean, yeah, I
From
know
the strategic planning, the cover sheet that was sent out on Wednesday clearly states we're looking at ways
Right.
to. It was never mentioned in there to shut it down.
No, that's my point here.
Are you open to looking at other alternatives to providing that service?
Well, we're gonna look at a lot of things, I suppose, you know. You know, cause I mean, I don't wanna go through that exercise of asking departments, what are your thoughts and ideas, if it comes back and just says, yeah, we're not.
Well, it would be, no, I'm open to looking at things, but, I do understand that, it's complicated if it goes into some other office, it'll be complicated, but.
And I truly don't know of any department that, no. I mean, we'd be back here in 2 weeks, and yeah, we don't have, nobody expressed any interest, yeah.
So,
But then I can say we tried to figure out a way to help reduce that. Right? To me, if you wanna truly protect it, we've gotta make that $70,000 of just straight levy money much smaller. It becomes a less of a target in a financial pinch, right? If it's $20,000 cut rather than a 70, that it changes your mind on it.
no, I think we should keep on meeting and, trying to figure things out. And, you know, move forward, because, you know, we're kind of in a time pinch, but, I'm not against looking at other things.
Well, expressing interest is, I mean, if nobody expresses interest, we'll be right back here in 2 weeks. If they do, I mean, obviously, we've got to have an expedited timeline, but.
The only thing I wanna make clear is that license, the availability of people purchasing their stuff for their vehicle and permits and driver's license needs to stay in this county, and I think, you know, I think that'll be the case, so.
The budget was 73,400, but there's 15,000 for office furniture and equipment, and I don't know that. Maybe we'll need that, but if you did X that out, that's 58,000. So it does move closer. In choice case, and I know we. Participate in a number of other organizations. So maybe we shouldn't quite focus totally on the 73, maybe we should do something less than that, unless there is a big office remodel that's in the.
My office remodel, I ordered 2 desks and a work table. It's estimated at less than $3,000. That was in this year's budget.
Yep.
But I didn't know if that was gonna go through this year, because there was a lot of conflict on that. So I lowered my budget for next year, but yeah, it can be lowered even farther now.
Anybody got anything else?
Well, I got one more thing.
Okay.
A little bit like. What Dwight's saying, he says, I'd be a noble. I'm not saying what kind of vote I would be, but I would have trouble. Looking at doing the same thing in the future. In other words, having that a 2-person department. I don't know how many transactions or how much traffic you have. I think we're at a point where cross-training and utilizing staff at a higher levels. We have a team concept in areas that can offer the services. So if someone does have to be gone, that there's someone else that can step in. I think when you are able to cross-train, it gets to be more of a team effort. And to have 2 people kind of out there and nobody else in this county can do what they do. And I don't know if I support that. I think we gotta look at a vision that's broader and more futuristic than that. Cause I think it can be different and better.
Anybody got anything else? Otherwise we'll move on.
Back here, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I think I know where you're coming from. And I see your problems and predicaments. But if the dollar is our only concern, please remember the constituents, the people that depend on services. I live in Tongass County. For years, I've come over here to get my license. I got the option, I could go to Fergus, I could go to Alley. Don't take that for a reason. In Alley, I would stand in line. I hear many disgruntled constituents. And I've recommended a few of them, well, why don't you go to Elbow? And but I see your problem with your budgets and the cuts and the costs of everything that's rising around us. The updating of equipment that needs to be in. Anyway, I wish you the best, and I hope you don't close the thing and say, das is all of us. This is it. We're not moving on.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Tina?
Fencing legislation follow-up. We did get the letter, Sheriff Holmes brought it over to me. It did come, and so I just wanted to let the board know we got the packet. It's not really a packet, it's more of a letter that says we have until May 5th to make, that's the deadline that we have to let the DNR know if we're gonna do something with it, what the state statute says. So it's just a follow-up to let you know that we received the information and that is the deadline. I also included in your packet the Morris Electronics contract for 2026, so you can see that. It was just for your review, not looking for a motion or anything on it. I will be bringing it back with other annual contracts, but they provided it to us early, so you had time to review it and for us to talk about anything that you might want to talk about. So that was just for review. And then the other technology item was the I can never say the word right, Asurion. I think that is what it's called, Asurion. It was a system that was used to back up 3 offices, and it was replaced with used to back up the recorder, assessor, and land management. I don't know how long ago, but in the past it was replaced for a bigger backup server to back up the whole county. So the cost did go up to that $14,287, and that is being paid for out of the computer fund. So each department contributes towards that. So we wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And then also, Holly Jo shared with me that the recorder's unallocated funds will pay for the maintenance contract for the Canon scanner and also the application extender. So it's just more of an update for you guys, so you are aware of how those systems are being paid for.
You need approval on that? Contract yet, or is that next year?
We're looking at doing like a consent agenda where we put all the annual contracts together and list them out. So it was just for informational purposes now, so you guys know what will be coming.
Be better to keep them all together in one pack, so that you can review it. I agree with it. So the technology, I got a question, Mr. Chair, with this Asurion. I mean, get all this from 8 to 16, and they're talking, I don't know, $12,000-13,000 or $11,000-12,000. I mean, what are we getting for the $11,000 or $12,000?
It's a backup for all the county departments.
Okay. Back up to county as a whole.
Yeah, before it was 3 departments and now it's everybody.
Okay. So that would make sense.
Any other questions on any of these? Chad, you got something or? No. Yeah? Oh, sorry. Good. The board committee updates? Budget and finance committee?
We met not that long ago.
I don't think we got a general consensus out of that meeting. I think it was just more of a food for thought. Moving forward. And would entertain another one. If so choose.
Well, my question for the rest of the board, is there information, is there stuff you're looking for, want me?
Just for me, not right now.
So run budget and finance.
Mhm.
So. You know, I'd gotten asked about the levy for HRA. And it was 200,000. And wondered what the budget was, and I said, well, I don't know, I don't think we received one, I don't know if we did or didn't. But there is statute that permits the HRA to levy a certain amount, and they're well with underneath that. However, in the same statute, it does say that the county has a policy that, a budget's got to be presented by a certain date, that we have the right to look at it in case it's excessive. And I guess the question is, and I don't know if we have a policy that relates to that, or not. I mean, we get reports from the Historical Society, we get reports from the fair, we get reports from the library, we get reports from pretty much every other entity that requests us to levy the taxpayer. I think we should get a report from the HRA to substantiate the request of $200,000 from the taxpayer. And I think that it should be an ongoing, whether we need to set a policy by before our preliminary levy is set. Well, we could request one now before the final. But if we're gonna get the reports from the others, and the statute states you should get it from them, then someone should reach out to that organization and request this, and you can address it at before our final.
Well, Mr. Chair, I got a couple of statements I'd like to make. And, you know, we back to the License Bureau and the HRA and all these different, you know, entities that, you know, that $50 and things like that. This is, yeah, and they've come with board presentations and, you know, clarity and where things are at. And the trust that we've, you know, instilled in them to make sure that they're fluid and, you know, there's transparency and we're getting something for those tax dollars. You know, including our department heads, you know, Grant County's been a well-oiled machine since I've been on this board, and I've put a lot of trust in these department heads. And that's one thing that I'm a strong believer in that, you know, they got their eyes on this stuff daily. And, you know, and right down to HRA, you know, these positions and direction of the county as a whole is, you know, unprecedented over the years, and we've done well. And in my opinion, the table's been set moving forward with space needs and where we're headed. And I get budget cuts, because we're all facing them clear across the state and the nation. But some of it you can't measure. Especially when you're talking HRA, because that's a lot of elderly, and if you get your eyes on a lot of these buildings that are in these different towns, including Elbow Lake here. That level of service is immeasurable. I will say that. Okay, that's it.
I understand, my intent of the comment had nothing to do with their effect to the public, their operation, or the organization. It's just a matter of accountability, and if we're the ones responsible, and if we get that report from this other organizations, I do not think there's anything wrong to ask for the same report from them. That levy's gone up almost $150,000 in the last 5 years.
Any more in budget items?
Well, one that came up in budget, but is probably more of a building thing, is I was not aware there's a policy apparently that we're not supposed to be adjusting the temperature in the courthouse on the thermostats. Cause you can only, the employee can only adjust them 4 degrees one way or another. But it's possible for that to be gone into and adjusted more inside of there, so you can still adjust it 4 degrees. The amount of space heaters we have running in that building, and we're going into winter. I think we really need to look at revamping, doing away with that policy so that we have a little more control of offices' temperatures. I don't think space heaters running is the best use of our resources. They're gonna be significantly more expensive than adjusting the temperature in there. So that we have. It wasn't a agenda item on here, but can we kind of revoke that and come back with a proposal for something better? So that we're not locked in on everybody running space heaters? Anybody have a problem with that?
No, I think we should have comfortable workspace. Without using portable heaters.
Anything is possible. If you wanna do a full audit of the building and it's, or what do you wanna do there?
I wanna be able to have the temperature adjusted so people aren't running space heaters in their offices. Cause that's gonna pull a lot more electricity than running the heat pump they should.
Since that was brought up, I did do some research and I went back all the way to 2020. No, excuse me, 2010. And I couldn't find a policy that was approved by the board in any of the board minutes. And I did talk to facility maintenance, and an email went out to county employees telling them to please contact facility maintenance if they would like adjustments in their office to see if it can happen, and that, you know, that is the preferred method rather than space heaters.
I got a question, if you could.
No.
So are we talking in each individual office, your temperature is set at 70, you can go to 74 or?
Yeah, I couldn't find a policy, so I don't know what it says,
68.
but
I think, yeah, if it's set at 70, you can go to 68, 72, right? But it doesn't even tell you that, it's just got up or down right now.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, you were in there.
Mine's up and down.
He
Hey,
had-
this is Maya. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's parameters in the system that's set where your heat is set at, where your cooling is set at, and then your thermostat on the wall can adjust you plus or minus 2 degrees from that setting. So there's a window of opportunity for each room right now. And what would be the thought is if you are set at 72 and you're gonna run a space heater all day, it makes more sense to bump you to 74 and see if that works better than running a space heater all day. That's the thought here.
Thanks.
Rather than 74. Get rid of the space heaters.
Otherwise, I think building committee meets on Monday.
Yep. It does.
I can see you can find out it yet. EMS? Committee?
The EMS committee met, I think it was last week, had a really good meeting about, the plans for the EMS funds that have been appropriated last year and are proposed for next year. And we put together a bunch of information, and we are hoping that Doyle will agree to a work session for the November 18th meeting, to be able to come and present to the full board all the information and what the sustainability plan that the committee is working on looks like.
I think she asked you a question.
Can we do a work session
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Okay. So more information will be coming then at the next meeting about what that plan for those funds looks like.
Personnel committee?
Negotiations are, I think today we meet with the last of the week. The one union we haven't met, then I shouldn't say the last one, but the one we haven't met with yet, so we will have met with everyone after this afternoon.
Highway committee?
You wanna talk about going and looking at that ditch?
Sure. Okay, so we had, you're talking about Roger?
Yeah.
Bill and I, we met with Roger Dahl, about a week ago. And, you know, his driveway, and I can see where he's coming from. He's got a swale coming up to the top, and that kind of hinders him seeing traffic coming. We talked to him about that, and then there was a culvert there that I think that nobody really knew was there, right, Bill?
Well,
And when they rebuilt the road, they covered that up and, plugged the culvert. And he got somebody there to hand shovel it out, so it was backing up into his field. And, but the county went out there yesterday and redid that, culvert with a skidder. They reshaped it, so that water is gonna get to that culvert now. And then next year, we're gonna take a look at that, swale or that swale in that driveway and just see what we can do. But yeah, we had a good meeting with them. I'll call them today now and tell them that they got that grading done there, so. That culvert. Which Bill said, we found out it is a county culvert.
yep, it's in there right away.
It's in the right of way.
So we
And there's a
had,
power pole right there. And that pole really probably should be moved at some point to the north, but
I can show you videos of what happened when we get a lot of rain.
yeah, I could see that.
it looks like there's a lot of water that pours off of that fields. It heads right to that
Yeah,
driveway.
it's got
Well, in the
it.
spring, when that culvert's plugged, it doesn't really go anywhere.
No. And it couldn't, they had dirt, Troy, this high over the.
Well, right after construction, it was buried, so there was no culvert. It was there, but it was buried.
Nice.
So, but anyway, we had a good discussion, Roger.
If that pipe was ever to be replaced, we'd have to address the electricity, cause the pole is right there alongside the pipe. And you start doing the excavation and there's primary that goes across and then the feed goes into his yard with the transformer in there, so. Everybody's gotta be there if we were gonna do any more. And we can't add to that driveway until that power pole and that service line has to be addressed. So, I don't know if that could even happen. They sort of-
Public safety?
So, did you see, I just emailed to put the contract formula into more of an addendum, so Dustin got the contract rewritten, hopefully we'll get that all the cities this month yet.
Yep.
So they can review it, and hopefully we'll have them all done and signed by the end of the year.
Okay, solid waste. And hammer that to them today. Okay, you got anything else?
No, we basically went through with session.
Strategic planning?
So we had, an elected official come and asked about becoming appointed. So then strategic planning met with the three appointed, or elected, excuse me, that it's my understanding can be made appointed. And here is Tina's got the information that we've gotten about that and about that process. So where do we go from here? We've had someone ask, and they have indicated they wanna, they asked about it, we met strategic planning, we went through this information you just got, and then so step one is on this one here, this Senate file, House file document. Agreement we reached with elected officer, and we've had someone ask to come and meet and try to come up with an agreement, or at least meet, and then we would start that process. But again, that's not a strategic planning. That's where they came and asked, and now we're here. So how do we proceed?
I got something to say, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was an elected official, and, this issue has come up before in the past. And, I understand where some people want to have job security, stuff like that, but a lot of the people in Grant County want to vote for their treasurer, auditor, sheriff, recorder. And I guess I did talk to Tina a little bit about this the other day. I've been sitting there thinking about it for 3 days, that I know the sheriff's elected and everything, but I don't think I'd ever been the sheriff of Grant County if it would have been an appointed position.
Well, so that, my understanding is
I
the
don't-
sheriff and the attorney cannot.
Yeah, I know, but these, the other departments, I think some of them, they gotta look at, would have I been appointed to be the treasurer or the auditor or the reporter, or or what are they, or when did they, So I don't know, just my feelings are that I wanna protect the election process here. And I know other counties have gone away from it, and I know what it's like to not, you gotta run every 4 years, so you gotta, it can be a challenge, okay, for you, because financially you're sitting there with mortgages and stuff, and you're wondering, gosh, if I get beat, what am I gonna do? But I think in this county and our department heads, they work hard, they do, and I don't see any of them at this point losing an election, but I do understand where they're coming from, because they're uneasy and times are tough and things like that, but that's just my 2 cents on this. I just wanted to say that after thinking about it for 3-4 days. So that's just my 2 cents, so.
Mr. Chair. So I'll use Dwight's analogy when we build some facilities for the next 50, 75 years. If we looked at running the county and the opportunity to be more efficient or to combine some offices, to cross-train, to do the things that a lot of counties, the majority of the counties do in the state. If you have them appointed and it's part of their job description, that's their job. If they're elected. It's not in the wheelhouse of the elected. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not saying they would. But I just think if we're gonna look at a vision for this county. We gotta change our thinking. And I know Dwight, you were elected. Doesn't. It's time to look at what's important for the future.
Are you done?
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I got a statement that I'd like to make on this. And we got election coming up next year, and in my opinion, we should be asking the public, what do they want? And if it's an important part and piece of their lives to be able to pick their elected officers for their county level government, that should be on a ballot, and we ask the people, not have five guys make that determination. So that's where I'm at. Put it on the ballot, ask the people, see what they got to say.
Yeah, I have no problem putting it on the ballot.
No, me neither. But also don't have any problem if we're willing to put it on the ballot, if one of them came forward and asked, knowing that we need 4 out of 5 yes votes, that we grant him or her the wish. Well, if like we presented this, if one of them elected came forward and said, I'd like to be appointed, that hopefully we would get 4 yes votes, because it takes a supermajority.
I think this kind of spells it out though.
Well, and
Because you know, it says that 10% of eligible voters sign a petition within 30 days, the board resolution is rescinded and proposed changes stop. After 3 years, the public can initiate a reverse referendum to return the office back to an elected position. That's. Yeah.
I mean, there's absolutely a way to go back.
I don't think there are very many counties that have elections for this lead position. I don't even know.
What's a number that could be found out pretty easily, I think. But
Oh, I'm sure AMC would have that number, I know.
Any more on strategic planning? Friday, public health. Meeting on Monday, I guess it is. Western Prairie, there's a meeting on Friday, this Friday.
Stacy is on. You wanna ask, Stacy?
Good morning. So Troy had
Morning.
asked if I wanted to give an update on the federal shutdown. If you're interested, I certainly can.
Go ahead.
So, and I've talked with your emergency manager a couple of, well, at least once, and he certainly has done a ton of work on this, so I don't want to take away from that. I can tell you that we've looked at the numbers for Western Prairie. We've done our best. We can't separate out exactly what's grant, what's Pope, because because all of ours are commingled, but we separate it out based on like our formula and how we separate other things. And based on that, we believe we have approximately 248 adults, 127 children in Grant County who will not get SNAP this month, at least effective on November 1st, pending the federal court, which I'll talk about in a second. So we have about 375 people who are not going to get their full SNAP benefits pending the federal shutdown. We have been working with lots of different, Maya's been working with the food shelf, so he can talk about the food shelf. He's been working with them. We've been talking with lots of different people, but I will talk about a thing that concerns me as much or more than that. So Minnesota has a cold weather rule, because Minnesota is also federally, they're not going to get the heat assistance either. So electric heat and gas heat will not be able to be shut off because of the cold weather rule, but propane heat does not apply to that. So we're actually pretty concerned about people who have propane heat, and that's what they solely exist on is propane heat, or that's what they primarily exist on. So when we talked about this in our executive committee last week, they asked that we let our administrators and coordinators know, and I did, who then let our fire departments and emergency managers know. So I also talked with Maya about that. And we do have concerns about that piece, like that we're going to have people who not only won't have adequate food, but they also will not have adequate heat because propane isn't going to be required to be delivered, whereas gas and heat will not be allowed to be shut off during the cold weather rule, which goes until April, actually. So that's a big concern that we have because that money will not go out. So there was a federal lawsuit that was filed by 26 states. Minnesota was one of them, that said that there was a $5 billion contingency fund that the federal government had for SNAP that was exactly for things like this, and they needed to use it. There were 2 federal judges that ruled last Friday that they did have to use that, and that the administration had to give a plan for how they were going to use it, I think by tomorrow. We have gotten zero information yet on how they plan to do that. They have said that that money is only enough for 50% benefits, approximately 50% benefits. So we anticipate that we will be able to give out 50% benefits, but we don't know how the state of Minnesota is going to do that. We haven't received anything from them yet. What we got on Friday, October 31st was, actually I got this morning too, was an update from DCYF that said that we haven't received anything from the federal government telling us what that amount is. I believe when they get that amount, they're probably going to try and figure out like how many people they have, what that amount looks like. And they're going to try and figure out a way to give some to everyone, but no one's going to have full SNAP benefits for November until the federal shutdown ends. So I think that's part of what we're trying to figure out is, will the state do it? Will we have to do it? We haven't gotten any data, and I don't believe the federal government has given those federal judges any information yet on how they plan to distribute those monies to the state, but the state of Minnesota has not received the money at this point. So I think that's one thing that we're really watching closely is the SNAP and the food portion. I know food shelves are very, they're primed, they're ready, they understand what's going on. The governor did allocate, I believe, I want to say $4 million to food shelves. I'm not sure how much of that's going to reach greater Minnesota. Frankly, we're part of a much larger network of food shelves, so probably not a whole lot. I know Maya talked with Deb about that. They didn't think a lot of it would. I think that I would really encourage if people want to donate to the food shelf that you first contact the food shelf, see what they need. I think what she'll tell you is cash is what they need because they won't know what they need on hand. But I do plan to talk with our board. We have a larger concern, equal or larger concern about propane because there isn't going to be any relief for that. That's not going to change until unless the federal shutdown ends. So I think that's kind of where we're at. Those are the 2 main things that we're watching. As of right now, our understanding for medical assistance is that it's funded, but we don't have any hard timelines for how long that will continue. And there's always questions like about how much of our time and administrative portion is funded through, but we haven't, again, gotten a lot of hard deadlines for that. It's an assumption that our 3rd quarter will be paid for and our 4th quarter might be delayed, and we might be delayed in getting some of that. So that's kind of where we're at. Other questions that I can answer? I see Maya on here too, so I don't want to take away from the work he's done. He's really done a lot of work on this as well.
I would just add to what you said. Yes, Deb did say that cash or money to the, would be the best just because of even just the rotating of stock piece. If you donate a canned item and it's got expiration date on it, then she has to have the staff to be able to rotate that and ensure that there's no expiration dates, where she said if it's cash, I can continue to purchase things that we need in a timely manner, and it just keeps that moving. I know I asked the question of could the county help that? And I think my understanding is there's a real fine line with what the county could do for purchasing food, but potentially like the bill side of the house might be helpful. She, just as I was asking questions, she just said, if let's just take an example. If the county were to pay the rent for the month, they could then use their rent money to buy food, right? So there would be some options that way, but I don't think the county can just say, well, we're going to give you, $1,000 to purchase food or whatever. That's a tricky piece, but yeah, definitely the cash side, she said, is just simpler. So then she can ensure that the expiration dates are where they need to be for those foods. She did say that they're looking pretty good for November. December gets a little bit sketchy. She said if this continues, they will probably be closed by January 1 if the government does not reopen. So it could be a much bigger issue if this doesn't resolve soon. So.
Right. I would also say, and we have on our website and a link of course, the link to our website is always on the Grant County website, but we have on our website the list of resources. So the Reviews Pantry, and as well as the food pantry which Deb runs in Elbow Lake and in Hoffman, and like their hours of operation, the ways to contact them, all that kind of stuff. And we also have kind of a statement about one of the really important things that we want people to understand is we are still processing applications. So if you get a renewal in the mail, fill it out. If you think you're eligible, if you lose your job, if you're going to need food, fill out an application. We're still processing applications, because then when the federal government opens up again, that application is processed and it's queued and ready to go. And you don't have to wait 30 days or 45 days or however long. Especially if people aren't applying and we get a whole influx of them when the federal government reopens. It's much, much better if people keep applying. We are continuing to process renewals, applications, even emergency applications. There's no money in them right now, but there will be once the federal government reopens. So we've continued to stress that to everyone I've talked to, that we are continuing to process applications. People should renew and apply as normal. Because that will help the process. Once we are able to issue benefits, will help make it go smoother and allow people to get their benefits quicker, because they'll be in the system and queued up and ready to go. So I know we have Crystal, our supervisor in this area, and I are heading to the cities. We have some meetings with the state in the next few days, so hopefully we'll hear more information before our board meeting on Friday. But as of now, my sense is that the state is not getting information from the federal government. It's not that they're not sharing it, because we're getting daily updates from them. It's that they're not getting it. That's what the email I got today said.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of questions for Stacy. Is NACO been in conjunction with you guys and actually getting feedback from some of that, Stacy, out of DC?
Yeah. AMC has been working with them, and yeah, we've been working together, I think, just to figure out the impact and to try and address the impact. So yeah, I think so. Like, we've been working more with the state of Minnesota just because we're at that program level right now. But yeah, we have been. And I think NACO is trying to help figure out that nationwide impact. I think that, one of the things that it's really important to remember is that each month, 440,000 Minnesotans rely on SNAP. So I think that's kind of where NACO is trying to get that nationwide message out. Minnesota is working hard on our own messaging. And in that, what I would really stress is that so I think it's 36% of those are children, 18% of them are children or seniors, I'm sorry. And of the percentage of adults that can work, 70% of them do work. So I think there's a real misconception that like people on SNAP are people that don't work or people that are sitting at home doing nothing. That's not true. the majority of SNAP users, or if they're not seniors and children, are people who are actually working and supplementing their food, which is what SNAP is for. It's a supplement to your food. So yeah, we have been working with NACO on messaging. AMC has been.
We just got an email from those guys and a little bit of an update. County impact, while county governments generate over 2/3 of our own revenues to provide services to residents, counties also receive $62 billion in intergovernmental agency revenue from the federal government. So
Yeah.
this is bigger than, you know what I mean, just on a state level.
Well, the other
So-
thing that I think people need to always remember, we've talked about this before, is the amount of money that is generated in your grocery stores, your gas stations, your Dollar Generals, and all those places in our small counties and small communities from SNAP. We know that it's upwards of the last time there was a cost report done, which was several years ago now, it was $700,000 of SNAP funds that came through Grant County for people. So that's a big hit to grocery stores and to the gas station in those little towns that take SNAP and EBT. That's a big hit to those. And so this also has an economic impact on people that sell groceries and the people that take SNAP, because they are also losing significant income. So I think that the economic impact is pretty broad too, to not having those dollars moving into the economy, as well as, of course, the human impact of people not having enough food. And we are getting phone calls. We are getting calls for people who don't have enough food and don't have heat. And we're trying to refer them to the right food shelves and to the right places. But, you know, people are scared, and they're hoping we can help them figure out when they're going to get those things. And it's a tough spot for our staff to be in, because we know those people. Like, they're not nameless people. They're clients that we've worked with before. So
are these food banks, they got enough food sitting around that can actually backfill this need? Like the one that's up in northern part of the state, Crookston or wherever that is there enough food in the state for these food shelves?
I think
You know?
that Maya might be a better one, because he spoke directly with Deb. I think what I'm hearing from what he said and from what I've heard from the other ones, I think we have potentially, we can Band-Aid it for a while, but I don't know that there's enough. Like, I think if they get cash, they can buy more, they can buy some, but enough food to, feed 440,000 people in Minnesota. I don't know. I don't have any idea.
The one thing she did say is she's pretty close to full right now. Like they're in pretty good shape currently today, or well, as of last week. For her regular customers, that would take her through the end of the year, but the influx is the part that's hard to measure. Will all of these will all 400 people that are on SNAP in Grant County go to the food shelf? We don't know that, so it's hard to judge how quickly that could deplete her resources. But yeah, as far as we talked about the $4 million, she just mentioned that in the grand scheme of things, with 440,000 people, that's less than $10 a person that's on SNAP. So even if all that money reached everybody, you're talking about a meal probably that everybody gets out of those dollars. So it's not a great thing. And she wasn't confident that it would reach our outstate. It would probably stay more into the metro area. So that was kind of her concern there too.
I think that they guaranteed $1,000 per, at least. I'm not 100% sure, $1,000 per food shelf, but I'm not 100% sure. I also know, just based on talking to other counties, that some counties are donating to their food shelves, but I don't know how they're doing that, because I do think it's sticky. So like Ramsey County said that they're donating $400,000 to theirs. I don't know how that works. I don't know what that will look like. Like, I get that would be kind of a state auditor issue and auditing difficulty for us, especially like our dollars are state and federal. I know we want to talk Friday about potentially increasing our emergency assistance more for propane, because we are very, very concerned, and we're already getting calls for propane, and we're already pretty much out of those dollars. And like, even the $5 billion for SNAP didn't provide relief, of course, for our people who need propane. So that's the area that we've been really kind of honing in on and hearing a lot about. Are there other questions I can answer? Or anything you want for Friday, for our meeting Friday?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sure we'll have updates by then. I'm hoping we'll have some sense of how that that money will be distributed. Or hopefully it'll be distributed, but I hope we'll have some kind of sense by that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody got anything else? We'll adjourn at 10:26.